The internet is a brilliant place to learn piano. You can self-teach yourself chords, scales, basic music theory, and download any kind of sheet music to get started playing right away. If you're just playing purely for fun, then you arguably don't need a teacher. That being said, if you want to progress to more complicated pieces, I highly suggest you finding a teacher or a mentor. Hi, I'm Jazer. In this video, I want to share with you 5 common pitfalls of self-taught pianists. I will not only share with you what they are, I want to also give you solutions to combating them. I will count them down from number 5 to number 1, so make sure you stick until the end to find out what number 1 is. Before we get into everything, make sure you subscribe to this channel so you stay in touch with more of these free piano lessons and tutorials. Number 5 on the list is poor technique. And within poor technique, there's a couple of things I want to talk about. The first thing is tension. So when I see self-taught pianists play, sometimes they look like they're lifting weights or something when they're playing. Like, you know, they sort of have this huge tension in their forearms, and not only can you visibly see it, you can also hear it in their playing. It's not fluent and easy and flowy. And I have huge empathy for this tension problem. It's because when you're playing the piano, it's a highly complex task, right? You have 10 fingers that are doing different things. So it feels like there's 10 different apps that are running at the same time, and you just have one brain to try to make sense of everything and make everything work. Inevitably, because it's so complex and you're so focused on so many different things, you could be doing a lot of subconscious things like just tensing your arm when you don't need to be. The second thing within poor technique is the poor finger independence. Try an exercise with me, guys. I need your right hand first. Can you please hold down every note in the C position? C, D, E, F, G, like this. Okay, so now I want you to be playing your thumb 8 times, but keep these other 4 pressed down. So like this. And I move on to the next finger, but everything is kept down. Next one. Next one. And then you can try that also with your left hand, of course. Now, how did you go with that exercise? If that exercise felt completely difficult and undoable, it probably means you don't have as much finger independence as you probably can have. Finger independence is really important in piano playing because, like I was saying before, when you're playing piano, it's a highly complex task, and it's almost like having 10 different apps running, and you need each app to do its things so that everything can run smoothly. When you have, for example, a weak finger, for example, the 4th often is a weak finger, you know, when that doesn't have enough finger independence, it's going to start to affect other fingers too. So it's going to affect, for example, the 5th or the 3rd when the 4th isn't working properly. Poor technique is an interesting thing to talk about because when you do something for months and years, it becomes ingrained into your subconscious, and it's really hard to change it later. Now, wanting to get brilliant technique on piano doesn't happen overnight. It takes years of training. I've been playing the piano for 18 years and I'm still continuing to refine my technique every day. But here are a few quick solutions I have for you. I have 3 things for you. First thing would be to play with slightly curved fingers, like this. Not like this. Okay, slightly curved. Second thing is to lower your wrist. So if you put the meaty part of your hand on the white keys and you just move it out this way, that should be where your wrist is. So not too high and not too low, just around there. So meaty part on the white keys and just move out. And one more thing is to stay close to the keyboard. So when you're playing your music, try not to lift especially your thumb up. Okay, so stay. Everything as close to the keyboard as possible so you have the most control. It's not easy to do, but we should always try to do it. Number 4 on the list is poor counting or poor rhythm. So when I see self-taught pianists play, sometimes their rhythm or tempo is really unregulated. For example, they'll play something like this. Something like that, when it's supposed to be. Because self-taught pianists are always playing by themselves and they don't have feedback from a teacher or a friend, sometimes they don't realize parts that they're playing either faster or slower. And like the thing that I was saying before, if you continually practice for weeks and months in the wrong way, suddenly that becomes your subconscious behavior, and then it's really, really hard to change after that. So it's so important to get that counting and that beat steady when you're practicing piano. What are some solutions to help yourself keep and beat? Metronome practice is a clear favorite of mine and many piano teachers. Okay, you can use a traditional one like this one or an electronic one, or also maybe even a watch. This is a recent purchase I've had that I am so in love with. I'll just show you what that is in a second. So what's a metronome? A metronome is something that helps you to keep time. So you set a speed. So if you go all the way up there, it clicks at a very slow tempo, and be all the way down here, clicks at a really fast tempo. So for example, what would be good to do as you're practicing as a self-taught pianist is to regularly practice with metronome so you're staying completely on beat. Now recently I've had the great pleasure of buying this Soundbrenner metronome watch, and it's been such a delight because I think it takes the metronome practice to just a ridiculously higher level. Instead of hearing the beat, I'm actually feeling the beat on my wrist. So I do a double tap, and right now, as you can see, I don't know if you can hear it in the microphone as well. I can feel a really strong vibration on my wrist. It's just wonderful. I'm actually going to do videos just talking about this watch and why it's so helpful for pianists. So stay tuned for those. Number 3 on the list is poor sight reading. So when we talk about sight reading and self-taught pianists, I think a lot of self-taught pianists suffer in sight reading because they use something called synesthesia. Now, lots of piano teachers dislike synesthesia because it doesn't teach people to read sheet music. I think synesthesia has some good points and also some bad points. The bad thing of synesthesia is that when you become overly reliant on this visual representation of notes coming down and pressing on them, you never really learn to read these black dots on a page, which is a shame because this is how 99% of the world communicates with each other in music. Also, synesthesia doesn't really teach you fingerings, so you never really learn how to use your hand properly. But the great thing about synesthesia is that it gives you a really quick way of learning something without needing to be great at reading sheet music. It's really good for motivation, right? Sometimes you don't want to wait years before you can play the pieces you want. You want to get started quickly. And from a motivational standpoint, I think that's important because we should all play pieces that we're passionate about. We can all relate to the times in our piano lessons when, for example, if you have a teacher that gives you lots of pieces you don't really like reading and playing, you can feel sort of low motivation as you go weekly to your lessons. You just sometimes want to play what you really want to play. So synesthesia is really good for that, giving a quick solution to help people to play what they want to play. But as I said before, synesthesia does have its drawbacks. Okay, learning to read the sheet music is a very essential part of your piano playing journey. Sometimes I think people who have learnt on synesthesia for years are sort of like people that can speak a language but don't know how to read and write. It feels like they can get by, but they just have this huge handicap and they can never really go past a certain level. So if you never learn how to read sheet music, I think you will get really great at piano playing, and then you'll hit a certain point where it's impossible to go up. And you're sort of wondering, well, why can't I go up? And it's because you can't read sheet music, and then when you go, oh, so you think, I better learn some sheet music now. But then now when you have to go from this level all the way down and learn, oh, this is C, oh, and this is D, it becomes a really, like, it's hard to go from a high level down back to level 0. So it's kind of like the person I was saying before, the person who can speak really well but doesn't know how to read and write, and then now having to go back to level 0 and learn A, B, C, D. It can be a hard journey. So the solution I have for you is to always read a little bit of music, even if it's just 4 bars a day. Read a bit of music every day. Number 2 on the list is poor fingering. Now I'm going to play something twice for you. The first playing is how I see a lot of self-taught pianists play, and the second time is the better playing. I want you to see if you can spot any differences in playing 1 and 2. Playing 1 is this. Playing 2 is this. Did you spot any differences? Now, it's a really subtle difference, but the second time of playing, I was using much smarter and more efficient fingering that made the whole thing sound nicer and felt easier to play. In the first playing, which is what I see a lot of self-pianists do, is... Do you see this? This kind of... If you were to play piano for longer, you'll know that this... Using your 5 to play these 3 notes is just not a smart way of using your hand. It's much smarter to go in this turn to do 3, 2, 1. That way you have enough fingers. See that? That's much easier than... So it's these little things that I think when you compound over time and you don't get proper fingering instructions, piano playing, it sort of feels like you hit a cap and you can't go much further because you don't know how to use your hands efficiently. My solution for you is to try to either buy or download scores with fingerings and try to follow them as strictly as you can, because fingerings are usually written by editors who are real pianists that can actually help you to plan how to use your hand as efficiently as possible. Okay, down to our number 1 thing. Number 1 is poor practicing methods. And this is where people practice things in a wrong way and they take ages to learn a piece. Practicing efficiently and in a correct way is a huge underlying message really in all of the videos you see on this channel. I'm very interested in almost kind of hijacking or finding a much better way to practice so that we can all save time. When I look at students or pianists around me, I feel like most people practice in a way that isn't optimal and actually wastes a lot of time. I have a challenge for you. If something that would usually take you about 1 hour to master, if I say to you, you only have today 10 minutes to practice, and I want you to achieve the same results as if you had an hour, how would you do it? Firstly, I want to say that's completely possible because I do this too. I always say to my students, what can take other people 1 hour to do, I can probably do it in 10 minutes or less. Not because I have more experience, but because I have a better way of practicing. There are many, many different ways to practice correctly. There are tons of ways to practice wrongly, but I want to give you one thing to think about today for practicing correctly. One of the ways to practice correctly is definitely to practice in smaller sections and repeat that for 7 times. For example, if we were to play... If I were a beginner learning this piece, by the time I reach, bar 9, 10, 11, I've essentially already forgotten what my hands were doing in the first couple of bars. The much better way to practice is to focus, for example, only on the first 2 bars. So 1, 2, 3, and I usually call it out myself too, so I keep track of the 7 times, and so on and so forth. And when you reach the 7th time, you should feel that in that seventh time, you're not actually needing to think about it too much anymore. It sort of is happening on autopilot. And how wonderful is that? Because that's the whole idea of practice, right? The whole idea of practicing is to practice it so that it becomes in your subconscious and you don't have to consciously think about it. So that your conscious mind can now think about something else, which is to learn more music. So I highly recommend this section is to practice correctly. And one way of practicing correctly is to do it in small sections and repeat it for 7 times. We have come to the end of this video. Which of these 5 things can you relate to the most? Please let me know in the comments below. I read all the comments that you write. Hope you have fun practicing, and I'll catch you in the next video.